Zambia Standing Orders 2024. The following bills had been withdrawn by the sponsoring ministries. These are the Public Service Pensions Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2026, the Human Rights Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 28 of 2026, and the Markets and Bus Stations Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 29 of 2026. In that regard, Madam Speaker stated that the bills would not be considered by the House.
Thereafter, two urgent matters, Understanding Order 142, were raised, and the first one did come from Mr. Christopher Kangombe. He did bring a matter on a mine accident at a gold mine in Mumba district that allegedly resulted in the death of 5 miners. This matter was admissible. The acting Minister of Mines and Minerals Development did respond.
And the second matter came from Shuangandu Member of Parliament, Mr. Stephen Kampyongo. The subject matter was on why the Electoral Commission of Zambia was allegedly making election regulations based on provisions contained in a bill that was under consideration before the House. This matter was admissible. The Vice President responded.
Thereafter, there was consideration of on the Vice President's question time, which was a segment of 45 minutes.
After that, the Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry made a statement on industrialization of the country. The Minister briefed the House on the key reforms the government implemented from 2021 to 2025 and further highlighted the achievements attained during the same period. After that ministerial statement, the House went on to consider questions for oral answer numbers 348 and 349 under Standing Order 80, and also notice was taken at 14:31 hours that quorum not formed. Madam Speaker ordered the bells to be rung. House counted and quorum having been formed, business resumed.
Yes, indeed. Thereafter, the House did consider a motion which was moved by Bahata Member of Parliament, Mr. Levan Chivombe, who moved a motion urging the House to adopt the report of the Parliamentary Select Committee appointed to scrutinize the presidential appointment of Mr. Rogers Kaoma, Mr. Echikuchu Iduna, Ms. Makalo Soso Mwanza, Honorable Davis Chibwiri, Honorable Sylvia Munina Oko, Honorable Katrina Maimbolwa Walvita, Mr. Mutafela Chimuga, Honorable Irene Tilisa Wishimanga, Ms. Claudia Luswili, Mrs. Kaumba Mtintandulo Mundia, Ms. Theuma Nkumbiza Mumba, Ms. Maureen Samuela Tresha, Ms. Angelica Kennedy Mwanza, Mr. Jafet Zulu, Ms. Diana Mizinga Majokwe, Ms. Comfort Mulenga, Mrs. Sombo Chinyama Kachaka, Mrs. Sekelebaka Mwamba Kunda Chola, Mr. Peter Mbambi, Mr. Kalifano Tiza Musanje Manyepa, Mr. Microbi Chiwale, Ms. Kabukabu Squivele, and Mr. James Bako Chipola as judges of the High Court of Zambia, and the presidential appointment of Major General Vincent Mukanda, retired as Deputy Chairperson of the Electoral Commission of Zambia, and Mr. Zejanji Sinkala as Commissioner of the Electoral Commission of Zambia for the first session of the 13th National Assembly laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 7th May 2026, and this motion was seconded by Narikwanda Member of Parliament, Mr. Simunji Konwa. The report was adopted.
And before the House proceeded to consider the report of the Parliamentary Reforms and Modernization Committee, Madam Speaker informed the House that although Article 89(2) of the Constitution of Zambia prohibited the National Assembly or a parliamentary committee from excluding the public or the media from its sittings except for specific reasons, Standing Order 199D of the National Assembly of Zambia Standing Orders classified the Parliamentary Reforms and Modernization Committee as a housekeeping committee, and therefore the debate on the report of the committee would be held in camera. In that regard, Madam Speaker directed all members of the public and the media to leave the House, and further directed that broadcasting of the proceedings on Parliament radio, television and social media be suspended during the debate of the report.
And thereafter, Mr. Kasaweta Mijelo, who is a Member of Parliament, did move a motion urging the House to adopt the the report of the Parliamentary Reforms and the Modernization Committee on the formalization of strategic priorities to guide the development of the new Assembly of Zambia Strategic Plan 2027 to 2031 for the 5th session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 7th May 2026. And it was taken note at 17:01 hours that a quorum not formed. Madam Speaker ordered the bills to be rung. The House counted, and quorum having been formed, business did resume.
After consideration of that report, the House went on to consider bills at different stages, and the House considered the Public Service Pensions Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 9 of 2026, and the Human Rights Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 28 of 2026 at second reading. These bills, they were withdrawn. Another bill that was withdrawn is the Markets and Bus Stations Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 29 of 2026. So 3 bills yesterday were withdrawn.
Yes, indeed. After that, the House did consider the Standards Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 53 of 2026, which was read the second time and committed to the Committee of the whole House. It was taken note that at 18:10 hours, quorum not formed. Madam Speaker ordered the bills to be run, and the House counted. The quorum was formed and business resumed. So committee stage of this bill is expected to be taken in due course.
And the House considered bills which were read a second time and committed to the Committee of the whole House. These are the Occupational Health and Safety Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 62 of 2026, the Patents and Companies Registration Agency Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 63 of 2026, the Zambia Development Agency Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2026. All these bills were read a second time and committed to the Committee of the whole House, and committee stage will be taken in due course.
And just to make mention that, Matiba, we had 17 bills which were considered in committee stage without amendments, and these 17 bills were read third time and passed. And we also had 2 bills which were considered in committee stage with amendments, and committee stage, and rather report stage is expected to be taken today.
And so after consideration of those bills, the House did adjourn accordingly at 19:12 hours. So this is business that was considered on the floor of the House yesterday, Friday, 8th May 2026. Just now we shift our attention and we look at today's order paper.
Yes, indeed, Matimba. So we do expect urgent matter without notice, if any, as well as announcements. And we also have one ordinary question and orders of the day, which consist of some bills to be considered at different stages. And
one question for oral answer, understanding Order 80. Today, the only question on the order paper will come from Kamfinsa Member of Parliament, Mr. Christopher Kangombe. He will direct his question to the Minister of Finance and National Planning. He wants to find out a question in 2 parts. In Part A, whether the government is aware that following the amendment of the Banking and Financial Services Act, there are complaints from money lenders over the new rules regarding the registration and operation of money lending businesses. And in Part B, he wants to find out, if so, what measures the government is taking to address the concerns.
The House will then consider orders over the day, and the following bills will be considered: the Electoral Process Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 44 of 2026, to be considered at second reading. We
also expect the House to consider the Zambia Wildlife Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 49 of 2026 at second reading.
The Sports Council of Zambia Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 52 of 2026, as well as the Zambia Educational Publishing House Foundation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 54 of 2026.
Other bills that are coming up for consideration at second reading are the Zambia Institute for Tourism and Hospitality Studies Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 55 of 2026, and the Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 56 of 2026.
The Zambia Revenue Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2026 at second reading, as well as the Tourism and Hospitality Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 58 of 2026 at the second reading. Still coming up for consideration at second reading, the National Institute of Public Administration Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 60 of 2026, the National Prosecution Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 61 of 2026. And of course, the Land Perpetual Success Bill, National Assembly Bill number 66 of 2026 at second reading, and thereafter, Matimba, we do expect the House to resolve into committee to consider the following bills at committee stage.
The first one, which will be considered in committee stage, is the Closed Circuit Television Public Protection Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2025, the Pension Scheme Regulation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2026, and the Public-Private Partnership Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2026.
The National Road Fund, wow, as you can see on your screens, Madam Speaker, making her way into the chamber right now. We take.
Honorable members of Parliament, Madam Speaker.
Tendency of Zambia, proud and free, land of wealth and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for the right. We want freedom's fight, oh, one, strong and free. Africa is our own motherland, fashioned with and blessed by God's good hand. Let us all our people join as one, brothers under the sun, oh, one, strong and free. One land and one nation is our cry, dignity and peace in Zambia's sky. Like a noble eagle in its flight, Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free. Praise be to God, bless our great Zambia, Zambia, Zambia. Remain we stand under the flag of our land, Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free.
Prayer. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to consider with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessing descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation, in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country, and of those whose interests you have committed to our church. Amen.
Good morning. Thank you so much for still being with us on Parliamentary Television. Bells are ringing. We don't have a quorum in the House. It is a requirement that 1/3 of members of Parliament must be present in the House for any business to transact. And so once the quorum has been formed, we do expect business of the House to commence.
Yes, indeed, Matimba. So the House is also expected to resolve into committee to consider some bills at the committee stage, and these are the National Road Fund, the National Road Fund Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2026 at committee stage. The Standards Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 53 of 2026, also at committee stage.
We also expect the House to consider at committee stage the Occupational Health and Safety Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 62 of 2026, the Dependents and Companies Registration Agency Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 63 of 2026.
The Zambia Development Agency Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2026, committee stage. The National Heritage Conservation Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 22 of 2026 at report stage.
And the last bill to be considered on the floor of the House today at report stage is the National Museums Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 34 of 2026. And so in case this is when you've just tuned in, bells are ringing, we don't have a quorum in the House. It is a requirement that 1/3 of members of Parliament must be present in the House for any business to transact. It seems that we have a quorum, so just now we take you to the floor of the House.
Honourable members, we do not have any announcements today, so we directly go into urgent matters without notice. There are no urgent matters without notice, so we go to questions for oral answer under Standing Order 80. The Honourable Member for Kafisa.
Madam Speaker, question number 350.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Acting Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Apologize, Madam Speaker. Honourable Member for Kamfinsa, Honourable Christopher Kangombe, is asking the Minister of Finance and National Planning the following two questions. A, whether the government is aware that following the amendment of the Banking and Financial Services Act, there are complaints from moneylenders over the new rules regarding the registration and operation of money lending business. And B, if so, what measures the government is taking to address the concerns. Madam Speaker, our response is as follows. Yes, government is aware of concerns and reactions from members of the public following the enactment of the Banking and Financial Services Act 2026, which repeals the Banking and Financial Services Act 2017 and the Moneylenders Act 1938. Honourable members are drawn to Section 1 of the Act, which provides that this Act may be cited as the Banking and Financial Services Act 2026 and shall come into operation on the date appointed by the Minister by statutory instrument. Madam Speaker, members will recall that the Act was enacted in March 2026 following extensive consultations with stakeholders. One of the key objectives of the Act is to facilitate the transition of the regulation and supervision of moneylenders from the Ministry of Finance to the Bank of Zambia. It is important to note that my office has not yet issued the statutory instrument required to operationalize the Act, partly because the regulatory and supervisory framework for moneylenders is still being developed. Consequently, the Banking and the Financial Services Act 2017 and the Moneylenders Act 1938 remain in force and have not yet been repealed. In this regard, Madam Speaker and the honourable members of this House, the current regulatory regime governing moneylenders, that's the Moneylenders Act 1938, remain in force until the BFSA 2026 is operationalized through the issuance of a statutory instrument. Madam Speaker, the Bank of Zambia is in the process of developing an appropriate and proportionate registration, regulatory and supervisory framework for moneylenders. In addition, there are, however, a number of subsidiary regulations that need to be developed to operationalize the Act. Therefore, the public will be duly notified once these processes are concluded. Madam, the government recognizes the importance of creating an environment that will enable moneylenders to operate responsibly and sustainably, thereby contributing economic growth and contribute to economic growth, employment creation, and improved access to finance, particularly for financially excluded segments of the population. At the same time, the government recognizes the need to ensure that money lending services are provided in a manner that does not cause harm or financial distress to consumers. Accordingly, the proposed regulatory and supervisory framework for money lenders will place emphasis on financial conduct aspects, and including 1, transparency in the pricing of credit products and services, 2, fair treatment of customers, and 3, responsible and lawful debt collection practices. Madam Speaker, the House may wish to note that the objective of the government in placing the regulation of the moneylenders under the Bank of Zambia is to ensure that the regulatory and supervisory framework for moneylenders support orderly entry in the financial sector and ensure that they adhere to responsible and ethical conduct while doing their business, thereby contributing to improved consumer welfare and confidence in the overall credit market. Madam Speaker and the honourable members are further assured that the formulation of the regulatory and supervisory framework for moneylenders will be consultative. In this regard, the Ministry, through the Bank of Zambia, will engage stakeholders and the public during the development process. The public is therefore encouraged to engage positively with the Bank of Zambia during the process of consultations. Members of the public are urged to disregard misinformation from unofficial sources. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Supplementary questions. The Honourable Member for Kamfinso.
Madam Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to direct a follow-up question to the Minister of Finance. Minister of Finance, the motivation behind my bringing of this question to this August House is basically arising from concerns from your citizens, the citizens of Zambia who are in the business of lending money. And you are aware, Minister, that we have different categories of money lenders. There are those that are doing very well, they are financially sound, they can easily comply with the requirements, pay for the statutory fees, pay the business levies, literally comply with everything that they need to be able to lend out money. Then there are those that are starting out, the young men and women starting from institutions of higher learning, going into the informal sector, markets. Those that are starting out, they see an opportunity to make money, to survive, to be able to look after their families. And they think that money lending is an opportunity to do that business. Yet they don't have the resources to comply with all those amounts that you are asking them to be able to pay. So my first question to you, Minister of Finance, you recognize that Zambians want to earn a living on their own. How are you going to support these entrepreneurs that want to go into this space with all those requirements that have been well publicized? Paying 13,000 kwacha to get a license, go and register a company, go and pay all those obligations. How are you going to help them get into this space? Because, Madam Speaker, foreign entities are coming into Zambia. Because they have more liquidity, they've taken over this space. I've seen foreign companies doing money lending, which our own Zambians can actually be able to do. So that is my first question to the Minister of Finance. How do you support these young men and women that want to go into this space? I thank you, Madam Speaker. First question.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister of Finance.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I want to thank the Honorable Member for that question. Madam Speaker, in every business, there are two sides. There are those who provide the service, and then there are those who consume the service. The purpose of regulations is to ensure that as much as possible, there's equity between the ones who supply the service and the ones that consume the service. This is why, Honorable, you recall that for some time there has been complaints in the media from those who borrow money from money lenders, complaining about all manner of injustice, improper way of doing business, and so forth. So we must also pay attention to those complaints. Of course, we must also pay attention to the needs of the lenders. So, the regulations that I'm yet to sign, which are being prepared by the Bank of Zambia, would take these different sides together and bring parity, bring equity, so that those who want to do the business, definitely they'll do the business, they'll be supported to do the business, but at the same time, there must be protective measures for those who consume the services, in other words, those who borrow. It's not as if the service has been suspended, cancelled, and so forth. No. The service is still there. The service is still recognized. The service will still be supported. All we are trying to do now is to harmonize the complaints of the borrowers with the needs of the lenders so that the business can thrive. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Mbavala.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning. Honorable Minister, thank you for your responses, and good morning, too. Honorable Minister, indeed, the issue of interest rates from money lenders is a very big issue out there in our society. But I wanted to also bring an additional issue of predatory lending, which is going on online. You see that on the phone, you get all these various companies that say, you know, go to this and get a loan of so much or get so much and the like. Is the planned subsidiary legislation also catering for those to regulate those online, which are basically making it difficult or actually scamming our rural people, because our rural people may not really understand some of these things. People in my villages, in the Mapanza, Macha, they may not understand these things, but you find that they actually say, no, I have subscribed to this, and they get indebted with rates which they really don't even understand. And all they are saying is, I found all my money gone, all my money gone. So is this registration covering the predatory lending which is going online, especially on the phones. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister of Finance.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And the honorable member for Mbabala is absolutely right by citing examples of what I meant earlier on what inappropriate lending entails. I think many of us have had situations whereby a money lender lends, say, something like 500 kwacha to a borrower. Then the agreement would run like, I've lent you 500 kwacha. After 1 month, you pay me 1,000 kwacha. So that is interest rate which is extremely high. If we were to convert that into interest rates, it is extremely high that you lend somebody money for 1 month, and then the following month, the amount due doubles. That is an example of predatory lending. In other words, lending that is really meant to capture the borrowers into perpetual indebtedness. Some of them, Madam Speaker, they ask for collateral whose value is extremely high. So a lender will lend somebody 500 kwacha and would ask for collateral whose value is extremely high, maybe a fridge, TV. The value is much, much higher compared to the amount of the loan. And then if the person fails to pay back after 1 month, the lender automatically just grabs that asset and disposes of it, obviously even getting more value. So it is things like this that needs to be controlled. And the regulations that are coming, the borrowers must bring this to the table so that these matters are ironed out, so that the lending process, the lending conditions are much more acceptable to the borrowers. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Kamfinsa.
Madam Speaker, the Minister did not answer my question. Maybe I'll rephrase it. The Minister basically indicated the need for general regulations. And I totally agree, Minister. We need to regulate how this business is done. But the point still remains. Here are people who are Zambians who want to take advantage of this opportunity to lend out the money. Could there be a way in which we I don't know if it's categorize them, the entry into this business, because you want them to be formal. You don't want people to be lending money illegally. You don't want someone to be seated in a room saying, I'm a money lender, yet they are not compliant, Madam Speaker, with the regulations. And that is why I was asking, is it possible that these regulations that you are developing are done in such a manner that they don't prevent Zambians from registering their businesses and be able to lend out the money? Because, Minister of Finance, we are foreigners doing money lending. If today you ask them to pay 20,000 kwacha as a license, they'll easily pay because they have access to liquidity where they are coming from. I don't want to start mentioning countries here and nationalities. I'm basically saying we have people that have got access to liquidity that are able to comply and formalize their businesses. But then we have Zambians, young Zambians, who want to do money lending, but they can't comply with all those regulations you are putting in. So could there be a way in which to put them in categories? These who have too much money, take them into microfinance business. Let money lending at a smaller scale be done by young Zambians. So I'm asking, Madam Speaker, same question. Could there be a way in which we could develop regulations that favor Zambians to formalize their money lending business so that they don't do it illegally, Madam Speaker? That is the complaint coming from the money lenders. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The answer is that this is precisely why my answer said those who are participants or those who intend to be participants come forth, provide inputs into the construction of these regulations so that the points like the one that you are raising can be taken care of. This is not to say that the regulations are just going to stop Zambians. Why would we want to create regulations that stop the Zambians when we've been elected into office by the Zambians? But these finer points that you're talking about, let those who are involved in the business come forth and present their views, and their views be taken care of. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. There are no... I'm wondering what is happening now. Honorable members, we are indicating to ask supplementary questions. You're getting confusing me now. We haven't reached the next stage yet. The clerk will now read the orders of the day.
The Electoral Process Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 44 of 2026, second reading.
Her Honor, the Vice President.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read a second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Any debate? Her Honor, the Vice President.
Madam Speaker, I thank you for giving me this opportunity to address the August House as I present the rationale for the Electoral Process Amendment Bill number 44 of 2026. Madam Speaker, the Electoral Commission of Zambia, the Commission in this case, is a body mandated to conduct elections in accordance with Article 229(2) of the Constitution of Zambia, Amendment Act number 2 of 2016, the Electoral Process Act number 35 of 2016, and the Electoral Commission of Zambia Act number 25 of 2016. The Commission undertook a comprehensive electoral reform process in order to actualize the provisions of the Constitution of Zambia Amendment Act number 13 of 2025, which has introduced a mixed member proportional representation electoral system for the National Assembly and councils. Madam Speaker, the rationale of the bill, therefore, is to align the Electoral Process Amendment Bill number 44 with the recent amendments to the Constitution of Zambia Amendment Act number 13 of 2025, which notably introduces the mixed member proportional representation system, MMPR. This electoral system introduces constituency-based seats and proportional representation seats. These seats are for the women, youths, persons with disabilities. The following are the objectives of the bill. A, the inspection of the provisional register of voters. B, the filing of an adoption certificate to accompany a nomination. C, the election and distribution of seats under the proportional representation electoral system. D, the appointment of a returning officer and their powers and duties. And E, the filing in of a nomination petition. F, the power of the Commission to suspend a political party or candidate for breach of the Code of Conduct. Madam Speaker, further, the objective of the bill is to address the identified gaps in the current Electoral Process Act number 35 of 2016. Madam Speaker, the impact of the bill is to ensure the efficient and effective operation of the electoral system in the country. Specifically, the amendments provide a comprehensive legal framework to govern the administration of the mixed-member proportional representation system in the country. The enactment will also enhance transparency in the electoral process and provide clarity on the conduct of elections and the distribution of the proportional representation seats. Madam Speaker, the bill seeks to resolve existing ambiguities in the electoral framework, including the determination of the campaign period. While the bill specifies a campaign period of 3 months, this has previously given rise to uncertainty as a strict calculation translates to 92 days. The bill, therefore, appropriately seeks to provide clarity and legal certainty on this matter. We also welcome stakeholders' recommendations that the bill revert to the earlier formulation, wherein the allocation of seats for local councils is based on wards within the respective local authorities. This approach better reflects local representation and electoral fairness. Furthermore, the introduction of the proportional representation electoral system is a progressive reform that will significantly enhance the representation and the participation of women, youth, and persons with disabilities in the governance of the country. Therefore, I urge honorable members of this august House to lend their full support to this bill, as it represents a meaningful advancement of our electoral democracy. I thank you, Madam.
Thank you very much, Honor the Vice President. Any further debate? The Vice Chairperson of the Parliamentary Select Committee appointed to scrutinize the Electoral Process Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 44 of 2026, the Honorable Member for Isoka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The chair is around.
So then, I don't know who is supposed to debate. The chairperson, you have the floor, Honorable Member for Mitete.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It was, of course, given to the chair. I've just pulled in this morning. Madam Speaker, the Select Committee appointed to scrutinize the Electoral Process Amendment Bill number 44 of 2026 has the honor to present its report on the bill for the 5th session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 7th May 2026. Madam, in considering the bill, the committee received submissions from both state and non-state stakeholders who gave invaluable submissions to the bill. The stakeholders.
Let's just deal with this issue that has arisen. Honorable Member for Mitete, sorry, there is an indication for a point of order. Please, first of all, before the Honorable Member for Mukush South comes in, we have a lot of work on the order paper, and we want to place a lot of importance to the Electoral Process Act Amendment Bill. As you can see, a number of members have indicated to debate. So please, I'm appealing to the honorable members, let's not interrupt the debate through points of order. So I'm only giving this first and last point of order, which the honorable member for Mukushi South wants to raise, and I hope that the point of order is substantive and goes to the root of the business that we are transacting today. May the honorable member for Mukushi raise the point of order, Mukushi South.
First and last. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to apologize to my old friend for disturbing your flow of thoughts. Madam Speaker, I want to read, first of all, the composition of the committee over the Select Committee of the Electoral Process Act. Order.
And that's why I was saying that I'm hoping that the point of order being raised is substantive and goes to the root of the business that we are transacting on the floor of the House this morning. Honorable member, you cannot question the composition of the committee. This is an administrative matter, and you cannot raise an administrative matter as a point of order. So, honorable member for Mukushi South, you are out of order, and I'm hoping that you will stay throughout the day to contribute to the enrichment of this electoral process. So we make progress. The honorable member for Mitete.
Madam Speaker, in considering the bill, the committee received submissions from both state and non-state stakeholders who gave invaluable submissions on the bill. The stakeholders supported the bill, but raised some concerns and proposed some changes to be made to the bill. The concerns of the stakeholders and proposals thereon are well captured in the committee's report, and it therefore remains for me to highlight some of the committee's observations and recommendations. Madam, the committee acknowledges that following the constitutional amendment of last year, the Electoral Process Act required to be amended in order to bring it into conformity with the new constitution order. The bill, therefore, seeks to amend the Electoral Process Act so as to, among others, strengthen the regulatory framework governing elections and provide for the administration of the proportional representation electoral system. Stakeholders who appeared before the committee raised concern regarding the proposed definition of the campaign period, which means the period commencing after the close of nominations and ending on the day preceding an election, as the Commission determines in accordance with Section 28 of the Principal Act. This definition did not sit well, for it was against the current definition in the Principal Act, which says the campaign period is a period of 3 months before the holding of an election. Stakeholders were of the strong view that the definition of the campaign period was a fundamental component of the electoral process and should be clearly defined in the law and not left to the administrative convenience of the Electoral Commission of Zambia. The committee has agreed with the stakeholders and recommends that the current definition in the Principal Act be maintained. Madam Speaker, the other concern raised by the stakeholders relates to the proposal in Clause 5 of the bill, which seeks to amend Section 17, subsection 1 of the Principal Act by reducing the period within which a registered voter may object to an error or omission in the provisional voters register, the period being from 90 to 14 days. Stakeholders argued that the proposed 14 days was inadequate and would disadvantage voters, especially in the rural areas where mobility and access to technology was difficult. Madam Speaker, the committee is aware that a prolonged voter verification period imposes logistical and financial pressure on the committee. However, voters, especially those in remote areas, require a reasonable time frame to verify their details, as not doing so may defranchise them. In this regard, the committee recommends that a reasonable time of 30 days be introduced in the bill in place of the proposed 14 days. Madam Speaker, the House may observe that some of the provisions in the bill, most notably the adoption certificate mechanism and part list compilation requirements, rely on internal democratic governance of political parties to function properly. In this regard, the committee observed that these requirements will sit better in the political parties' registration as envisaged by Article 60, subsection 4 of the Constitution of Zambia, which requires Parliament to prescribe conditions and rules relating to political parties. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I would like to urge the House to support the bill and the committee's recommendations. Finally, I would like, on behalf of the committee, to thank you, Madam Speaker, the Clerk of the National Assembly, and her staff, and the stakeholders who made both written and oral submissions to the committee. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Yeah. Got it.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? The Honourable Member for Mpika.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity given to me to add my poignant debate to this very important bill. Madam Speaker, we have a sacred law to enact laws that are in the best interest of our country and in conformity with the Republican Constitution. The Electoral Commission of Zambia equally has a sacred responsibility to fashion our democratic tenets in terms of facilitating the holding of elections, which we chose in 1991 when we chose multipartyism. Madam Speaker, this responsibility conferred upon the Electoral Commission of Zambia is a very delicate one. And we've seen in comparative jurisdictions where elections have brought about mismanagement of elections, have brought about chaos and instability. As such, when we make laws, we must ensure that such laws are ones that will facilitate the smooth holding of elections. In this case, Madam Speaker, I support the recommendations of the committee, and I must thank the chairperson of the committee and his team for a job well done. Madam Speaker, the bill sought to introduce an adoption certificate and prescribed it as a certificate signed by the President or the Secretary General of a political party as prescribed. Madam Speaker, just yesterday, the Electoral Commission of Zambia published the pre-processing of supporters. They published the schedule. And on that schedule, they put a note that a presidential or any other candidate who should file in nominations should have an adoption certificate signed by both the President and the Secretary General of a political party. This is in contradiction of the bill. The bill says the Secretary General or the President. Wording in law, Madam Speaker, is very important. Where did the Electoral Commission of Zambia get the mandate to prescribe how the adoption certificate must be signed when the bill was before this House at first reading? Madam Speaker, such undertakings during an electoral period is what brings about chaos in any country. Because others will view it as a means to try and block some candidates. Madam Speaker, the role of the Electoral Commission of Zambia is to facilitate the choice of the Zambian people when it comes to choosing their leaders. They do not have a role to play in who becomes a president or who becomes a member of parliament or who becomes a council or council chairperson. No. Theirs is to facilitate and ensure that the choice of the Zambian people is sustained. Madam Speaker, the Electoral Commission of Zambia should stick to facilitating the holding of elections. They should not appear to participate in choosing who should become the Republican president or a member of parliament, councillor or council chairperson. Madam Speaker, in this case, the information out there is that the bill is aimed at blocking some candidates. This is, Madam Speaker, in contradiction of Article 70 of our Constitution, which prescribes the requirements for one to qualify to file in nominations, particularly for the presidents, the MPship, the councillor, and member of parliament, and council chairperson. Madam Speaker, I therefore support the recommendation and observations of the stakeholders on the issue of the adoption certificate. Madam Speaker, even when you look at the registrar, the Societies Act, the words such as the Secretary General, the President, do not exist. No. What exists there are office bearers, because we are talking about societies. Madam Speaker, where did the drafters of this bill get the issue of the Secretary General and the President. Madam Speaker, political parties are run by constitutions themselves. And the person who should sign on the adoption certificate is prescribed in the political party's constitution. And even in their constitution, most of these political parties do not have the Secretary General. Others have national secretaries, and others have chairperson general, stuff like that. Then here we have a law which is prescribing on Secretary General and these other positions which do not exist in these political parties. Madam Speaker, this bill should be a bill that will facilitate the smooth holding of elections. It's a very delicate period, Madam Speaker, and people out there should not think that by bringing such laws, then it will facilitate their holding on to power. It won't work, Madam Speaker. What will only work is for us to have laws that will facilitate the installation of the choice of the Zambian people. No one should be uncomfortable. If you have worked, you have worked. If you have not worked, give the Zambian people a chance to say you have not worked or you have worked. Madam Speaker, the seemingly intentions to block some candidates in this election will be met with resistance by the Zambian people. And I must make it very clear. Draconian laws, Madam Speaker, do not have space in our country because our forefathers fought against that during the liberation period. They also fought against that during the fight for multipartyism. Even this time around, Madam Speaker, the Zambian people are ready to fight draconian laws with their might. Madam Speaker, there is also this issue on the local government proportional representation. That should not be attached to the votes given to the presidential candidate. It must be attached to the votes gotten at the district level. Madam Speaker, I need your protection, much as I have the capacity to protect
Honorable
myself.
Member for Mpika, let me just give guidance. As you debate, please take into consideration or into account the amendments contained in the Act number 35 of 2026, the constitutional amendment. So you may proceed.
Madam Speaker, I thank you very much. And I just want to restate the position of the Zambian people and the people I represent, that the same Zambians that are going to vote you out with that arrogance, they don't need that arrogance once again. Madam Speaker.
Order. Honorable Member Fonkana, you've been given a floor to debate. Please debate with honor. Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Honorable Member Fonkana. Sorry, Honorable Member from Pika. You have been given the floor to debate, and you know the rules of the debate. Don't engage other honorable members, and don't talk to them in a dignified manner. Respect all honorable members, just as you demand to be respected yourself. So the word that you used, please can you withdraw the word arrogance that you used and apologize?
Madam Speaker, I withdraw and emphasize that the bill must be relooked at with the recommendations by the committee.
I said withdraw and apologize, Honorable Member.
Madam Speaker, I withdraw with an apology. Madam Speaker, I was saying that the bill must be approached with the recommendations made by the committee. Madam Speaker, thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to make some comments on this very important bill. whose report we are about to adopt. Madam Speaker, just to augment the arguments raised by the Honourable MP from Pika on his, in his debate, I will make reference to the part 3 of your report, and where the committee's recommendations and observations are captured. Madam Speaker, I want to commend the committee for the job thoroughly well done, and I think they applied their minds to the key issues that were raised by the stakeholders. Madam Speaker, the recommendation under Roman numeral 1, definition of adoption certificate, I quote, the committee notes that the definition of adoption certificate is a new insertion and it has not been provided for in the Principal Act. The adoption certificate is required to be signed by the President or Secretary General of a political party. The committee observes that the terms President and Secretary General have been defined under the bill by cross-referring it with the definition provided in the Societies Act, Cap 119 of the laws of Zambia. However, in the Societies Act, in Section 2, does not specifically define these terms, but defines the terms office bearer as including President, Vice President, Chairman, Deputy Chairman, Secretary, Treasurer of a society, committee, a state committee or body, or who holds any office or position analogous to any of these positions. Madam Speaker, this is what we have always said, that the registry of societies, which regulates the political parties, despite not exclusively providing for political parties, but societies, has taken care of all these issues that sometimes Electoral Commission of Zambia wants to stray in. Madam Speaker, and this is the issue I raised yesterday on our Honor the Vice President. And I would like to request our Honor to direct the Electoral Commission of Zambia to remove that notification they have put before we conclude this law. Because what they have attempted to do in that notification to the nation is getting an extract of this bill before we even pass it into law. What they have now is the Electoral Processes Act of 2016. If they have to cite anything, that's the law they can cite when making public pronouncements. It's erroneous for them to cite what is provided in the bill before even conclude business of the bill. So what they are saying here, Madam Speaker, is that to state that, first of all, the insertion of adoption certificate is new in their definitions. The positions that are, they are referring to the Registry of Societies Act, meaning they can't create these positions on their own. When they say Secretary General, which is not reflected in the Registry of Societies Act, where is it coming from? Until such a time when we enact the law recommended by the Constitutional Court, which my colleague, the mover of the motion, referred to as being the political parties' bill, then we can start changing those positions and reflecting them in the manner they are going to be couched. To start making positions that do not exist in any law is not the role of this August House. And our role is to make sure that we harmonize the pieces of legislation that we churn out. So pay attention to this proposal by the committee to ensure that this is harmonized accordingly and in line with what is provided for in the Registry of Societies Act. Madam Speaker, the other issue is the definition of candidate. The committee observes that the current definition of candidate under Section 2A may give rise to ambiguity and inconsistency in interpretation when read in conjunction with Article 47, Subact 1 of the Constitution of Zambia. The Electoral Process Act and the Electoral Process Act of number 35 of 2016. Madam Speaker, it's also our important role here to ensure that the laws that we pass here do not conflict with the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution. So pay attention to this amendment proposed by the committee, and we shall make sure that we run with you into the next stages of the bill to make sure that this is cleaned up in line with the recommendations of the committee, because they have referred these matters to the existing laws and the Constitution itself. So we agree with the recommendation of the committee on this score. Madam Speaker, the last issue is the issue on page 15, which talks about removal of requirements or to mark on a ballot paper. Madam Speaker, this matter has raised a lot of apprehension, and indeed the importance of a mark, which is a date stamp of a ballot paper, is very critical in many ways, because there could be instances, Madam Speaker, where a recount might be ordered by the court of law. And if in such circumstance, ballots have to be traced, ballots cannot be traced to make sure that the date on which that ballot was cast is kept and captured. So if a ballot is on 13th August and the recount is ordered of 2026, a recount is ordered in 2027, if there is no mark on the ballot paper, how are you going to ensure?
Sorry, Honorable Member for Shwangandu. I don't know if you have paid attention to the observation by the committee.
Yes, ma'am, I'm going to there. I'm going there, Madam Speaker.
Yes, but that issue that you are debating, may I give guidance? The issue that you are debating is not part of the proposed bill, according to what the committee is saying. So it's not adding value, Honorable Member, to discuss an item which is not a subject of debate as the status quo remains. I'm just giving guidance so that you can concentrate on the other issues which are subject matter of the bill. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, I agree with you, and I can see it on page 15 that to comfort people, that's not part of the proposed amendments, and it's settled. Lastly, Madam Speaker, yes, I hear about the proposal and presentation of the councils as recommended by the committee. And I think what the committee is trying to do, in line with the amended constitution, is to say, if indeed you are going to use the presidential vote to arrive at the number of the proportional representation in the councils, let it be the presidential vote as at that district. That's how you localize. In that district, you compile the presidential vote to say, in this district, the presidential vote for candidate A was so much. And that's what you use to compute the numbers. You can't use for the whole nation. How do you use for the whole nation? It's a local authority, Honorable Minister of Education. That's what we are saying, so that you localize it to a district and make sure that you allocate the seats
I had said that there will be no points of order.
So, Madam Speaker, I think the recommendation from the
Honorable
committee...
Member for Shwangandu, I'm just giving guidance. I had indicated that there will be no points of order. So if you honorable members want to respond to a particular issue, please take note and indicate. You'll be given an opportunity to debate. May the honorable member for Shwangandu wind up his debate.
Madam Speaker, in my conclusion, we support this report with the recommendations that have been made by the committee. And we shall ensure that we sit here and see through that this bill is done in conformity with the Constitution and it's not in conflict with any other law, such as the Registry of Societies Act, Cap 119 of the laws of Zambia. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. The next honorable member for Chiengi.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving the people of Chiengi a voice on this very important bill. Madam Speaker, I won't say much because a lot has been already debated. I'm just here, Madam Speaker, to commend the report by your committee. When I say commend, it's their recommendations are speaking. Their recommendations are speaking to what a Zambian would like to hear. However, Madam Speaker, there's a challenge in this report and also proposed bill. When you look at Article 100 for presidential candidates, it talks about the independent. But when you look at this bill in particular, it's like deliberately, it's gone silent on the independent presidential candidates. When you look at the proposed proportional representation system, which is just designed around political parties. Now, when you read Clause 11, you see that it repeatedly spoke on political parties. In the event that a presidential candidate who is an independent wins the election, what is going to happen? So I would like to make a recommendation to this House that this bill some amendments also be taken into consideration, knowing very well that it's a constitutional right for any Zambian to stand as an independent presidential candidate. There's an ambiguity, Madam Speaker, which has not spoken to our Constitution. And I would also like to bring it to the attention of the House that if an independent candidate wins the election, Madam Speaker, what's going to happen in the case of a proportional representation? I would like those questions to be answered, because the Constitution does not only talk about political parties, it talks about the independents. So I'm I'm failing to understand why this bill should deliberately leave out what is in the main Constitution, the supreme law of the country. Yeah. Even the chair of the selective committee, Madam Speaker, he alluded to that the stakeholders were concerned with some of these proposals, which do not speak to what is in the supreme law of this country. So I would like to remind this House and also the nation that before this bill passes, it needs to be revisited and include what the stakeholders would like to see. That will be in conformity with our Constitution. Having said that, I know some of my colleagues have already talked about adoption certificates. Since I'm supposed to speak about this bill, which affects every Zambian, not only for the independents. Madam Speaker, there are additional qualifications that have been added by the Electoral Commission of Zambia. And these added qualifications, Madam Speaker, I feel they are contradicting Article 70 and 100. I would want the drafters of this bill, since they are learned, to go and sit down and to make sure that no Zambian is disfranchised, because this bill is not about an individual nor a political party, but it's about the Zambians. So I think, Madam Speaker, my suggestion would be that even the way candidate has been defined in this bill, it leaves a lot of gaps. So I would appeal to those who are the drafters to go back and have a look. Please, for the sake of the nation, don't do it for anybody, but do it for the nation. We will go, Madam Speaker, and they'll be our generation to come. And if they find that we have laws and which are contradicting each other, then they'll think like we didn't know what we were doing. Having said that, Madam Speaker, I would like also to talk to the issue of Article 50 on media access for the oppositional political parties or political players. I think also that should be looked into, Madam Speaker. Having said that, I'm concluding by saying, can this bill be taken back and make sure that you include the independent presidential candidates and how they are going to nominate their MPs, because it's according to the percentage. Should an independent presidential candidate run second, what happens? You mean that presidential candidate will not be able to nominate MPs? So I think there's already a lacuna which needs to be cured before it is even passed. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member for Chieng, if you have specific recommendations, it's better to propose amendments than to say let the bill be sent back. I think you will not be doing justice yourself. You've made observations which may be valid. Make proposals on how you can enrich the bill by making proposed amendments, which you can now float to the House at committee stage. Then whether or not the House will accept them, that's another. Because now we are on stages of the bill. So to ask that the bill should be sent back, I think we want to short-circuit the whole process. The Honorable Member for Lunte.
Madam, thank you so much. Madam Speaker, the bill under consideration will affect elections from 2026 this year and going into the future. And as you know, the Electoral Commission of Zambia already asked presidential candidates or those who are wishing to contest this year's elections to pay their nomination fees. As a matter of fact, starting Monday, they'll be processing their supporters in the provincial headquarters. Now, Madam Speaker, the electoral game or the electoral process has already started. The authorities are making rules that relate to a game which is already underway. That's unusual. You can imagine you are 15 minutes into the game and the authorities are still making the regulations which relate to the game you are already playing. It's extremely unusual. I find it as a poor standard of democratic development in our country. Madam Speaker, Article 1 of the Constitution of Zambia states, let me quote, it states, and I quote, "This Constitution is the supreme law of the Republic of Zambia, and any other written law, customary law, and customary practice that is inconsistent with its provisions is void to the extent of the inconsistency. 2, an act or omission that contravenes this Constitution is illegal. 3, the Constitution shall bind all persons in Zambia, state organs, and state institutions. The validity of or legality of this Constitution is not subject to challenge by or before a state organ or other forum." Madam Speaker, my colleagues have spoken about the constitutional requirements for somebody to be able to lodge in nomination papers as a presidential candidate. Article 100 of this constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, has put the requirements, and those are sealed by the constitution. Madam Speaker, the bill under consideration is introducing items which are not in Article 100. What is government telling us? Is the UPND government telling us that a subsidiary law can add to the requirements which are contained in the Constitution? Are they telling us that they are ready to abrogate the provisions of Article 1 of our Constitution? These are serious matters, Madam Speaker. This bill had been under consultations for many days. And in fact, the Electoral Commission of Zambia itself was spearheading the consultations. Honestly, are there no lawyers at the Electoral Commission of Zambia? Are there no lawyers at Ministry of Justice? Are there no lawyers in cabinet? Maybe, but here we have lawyers here in this assembly. Help us, you lawyers. Are we ready to abrogate Article 1 of the Constitution by introducing requirements that are not prescribed or that are not embedded in Article 1 of the Constitution of Zambia? Madam Speaker, I am sorry.
Honorable Member for Lunte, just for guidance, you are saying there are lawyers here. Are there no lawyers? Like this country has got no lawyers. There are lawyers and they are there. So as you read, Honorable Member, the provisions of Article 100 of the Constitution, please also refer to Article 229 of the Constitution, which establishes the Electoral Commission and gives its functions. So as you debate, please relate those two. I'm just guiding, helping you to. So you can continue, Honorable Member.
Madam Speaker, it is good that the Electoral Commission of Zambia is established by the Constitution, and I'm very happy about that. Establishing an institution by Constitution gives it, an unequivocal mandate, but also that mandate does not extend towards, abrogating other provisions of the Constitution. And in particular, I am more interested in Article 1, which I read, the supremacy of the Constitution which established the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Madam Speaker, my friends have talked very strongly.
Honorable Member for Mukuchi South. Don't say, Honorable Member for Lunta. Please don't encourage conduct which is unbecoming. Once somebody is not a lawyer, he's not a lawyer. And what you should know, one of the principles of reading the Constitution is that you cannot read an article in isolation. These articles are related to each other. And that's why I was referring you, Honorable Member for Lunte, to Article 229, subparagraph 2, which gives functions to the Electoral Commission of Zambia. I'm just helping you so that your debate is enriched. May you continue, Honorable Member.
Madam Speaker, I am a very proud CGMA, Chartered Global Management Accountant. I am not a lawyer, and I take your guidance because you are a lawyer, and I wished you offered us guidance before we began to talk. But here is my point. My point is that the issue of an adoption certificate signed by the President and the Secretary General and the issue of a confirmation letter is absent in the Constitution. It's being introduced in this particular bill. Therefore, the Electoral Commission of Zambia or the UPND government through this act are making an addition of requirements which are not in the Constitution. And I'm sure it is not on that article which you mentioned, Madam Speaker. Article 2, what? That is not there. So, Madam Speaker.
You want me to be your consultant? I charge a fee. I will charge you a fee. Or is it pro bono? Continue, honorable member. You are free to debate whether you understand or you don't understand.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. As I sat here, I heard my honorable older brother, Honorable Kampiongo, speaking about proportional representation, and he says, you can imagine a president wins in northern Wapla Mchinga and loses terribly in northwestern province. And then, when you are putting this proportional representation in northwestern, you use the results of a president who lost there. What rationale is that? Madam, let us modify this and say we use the results of a council chairperson, because there is a council chairperson results in every district. There is a mayor's results in every district. So the people, their willingness to support a particular political formation it would be seen from the results as they come out. So let's use the council chairperson who is in a district as opposed to a president, Madam Speaker. That then reflects the will of the people in that particular area. For National Assembly, I have no qualms. You can use the results of the president, because after all, the results which come here are consolidated results. So clearly, I think that there wasn't much thought applied to this process, and this is why I am saying, if the consultation meant well, even these honorable members like myself, we should have been consulted. Despite being accountants, Madam Speaker, there is something we are able to project, and there is something we are able to put through to this process to make it an acceptable process. As it is, Madam, these rules may cause chaos. Madam Speaker, I wish to contribute.
Yeah. Thank you very much. How I wish the honorable member for Lunte had not boycotted the debate on Bill 7. You would have enriched the process. We move, we make progress. The honorable member for Chilubi.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving the people of Chilubi an opportunity to add their voice on this very important bill. Madam Speaker, for starters, I would like to say that it is alarming that we have started talking about this particular bill in an environment which is raised with an attitudinal problem emanating from the Electoral Commission of Zambia. The Electoral Commission of Zambia, in principle, has started implementing this particular bill before this House passes it, which means that it has usurped the powers of Parliament.
Order, honorable member for Chilubi. Recall that our standing orders always state whatever we say on the floor of the House must be truthful and factual and verifiable. Honorable member, we are alleging that the Electoral Commission has started implementing the bill that we are discussing as an amendment. Do you have evidence to show that the Electoral Commission is indeed implementing the bill that we are debating, or they are going in accordance with the existing law that is already was enacted?
Yes, Madam Speaker, I have evidence. Madam Speaker, the
put it on the floor of the, or put it on the table.
I didn't come with their notices anyway.
So then let's not debate things that we cannot verify. You may proceed, but veer away from things
okay, Madam
that
Speaker,
cannot verify.
But what I wanted to say is very important to the nation, but all the same, I'll go ahead as you have said. Madam Speaker, what I'm trying to talk about now is that what we are debating now is in Article 48, where there is the Constitution is straight. It says, electoral process shall be prescribed, and this is the portion we are debating. This portion, Madam Speaker, rightly, is also attached to Act number 13, which is Bill 7, Act number 13 of 2025 now. And it is necessary that this bill has to be debated before, because we can't go into the election without qualifying that particular act. That necessitates the debate of the bill. Madam Speaker, having said that, I want also to draw attention that voters who are now 8 million something, have the right to register as voters and vote in an election freely using secret ballot, which is in Article 46. I'm just trying to note these things. Some of the things, as you have already indicated, I'll supply using amendments. Madam Speaker, let me just go through quickly, with the interest of time, candidate, which is defined wrongly in this particular bill, because Article 47 talks about two-tier systems. This bill defines everyone under the first-past-the-post system. The president is under the majoritarian system. But this bill defines everyone, the member of parliament, the councillor, the what, under the first-past-the-post. Thereby, the definition of candidate has to be attended to. Campaign period. Campaign period, Madam Speaker, is supposed to be to provide statutory certainty. And this check of where we surrender the campaign period to be determined by a referee does not meet that particular threshold. There is a term that has been introduced, which is when it comes to party list, where they're talking about democratically elected. It's not even possible, not even under Article 60, which talks about political parties. Even in this late in the day, we cannot venture into that particular factor. Proportional representation, Madam Speaker, has to be accommodated as a definition. It is not there because it's newly introduced in the Parent Act, which is the Electoral Process Act number 35 of 2016. It's not there. So it has to be attended to. Madam Speaker, another factor that has to be attended to is an adoption certificate, which has to be accommodated. Madam Speaker, I also want to bring your attention to an issue of qualifications and disqualifications for candidates. Qualifications for Member of Parliament are in Article 70 of the Constitution. Qualifications for the presidential are in Article 100. Qualifications for councillors and mayors are in 153, Article 153 of the Constitution. Given that background, Madam Speaker, there is no law that should be introduced to usurp constitutional requirements, as it may be, including the 2.9, which is simply prescribed, A to H, is only talking about the functions or the constitutional functions of the Electoral Commission. Madam Speaker, when we are talking about these factors, I want to clarify, especially on the campaign period, that we cannot use Section 28 of the Electoral Process Act to usurp the powers that are in the Constitution by pushing the Electoral Commission and giving it that leverage. That cannot be done as it may be. Madam Speaker, I also want to say that I want to adapt what the other speakers said on that issue. Hello, you are pet. Yeah.
Order. Let's leave the honorable member to exercise his right to debate.
That's why they are pet.
Order, honorable member for Chirubi. I'm protecting you again. You want to take a jab at me. You may proceed, honorable member. You are protected.
Madam Speaker, we also want to tarry these things, that all the laws, as you have said, and it's not only the Constitution that should be read in tandem in terms of all the articles. All the laws should match. You don't know that word. All the laws should match. We are talking about Cap 119, the Registrar Society Act. We are talking about Article 60. We are talking about many more. We are talking about Article 61C, Article 62, and many other factors should resonate with what we amended through the Act number 13 of 2025. These things should match. The moment there is a mismatch, we are courting a constitutional crisis. And this particular bill, in some way, is going through that particular line, where we have the Electoral Commission becoming even a referee for Cap 119, Where on earth? Where the Electoral Commission has been given the powers that the Constitution doesn't even give it. Now, Madam Speaker, I want to come down on the issue of registration of voters. Madam Speaker, let us scrutinize Section 12 because time cannot allow me. Section 12.2, Section 13.4. And, Madam Speaker, in looking at that, let us also attend to this issue that is suggesting that we reduce the 90 days to 14 days. It's a crisis. And looking at these factors, Madam Speaker, I also want to leverage what others have said about this issue of the Secretary General, which is already floating in the notices. No, the Secretary General, the what? That's why we said this law is being implemented. No, the Secretary General has to do this and the like. We are defeating democracy. Because in as far as these laws are concerned, this Electoral Commission and another body, including Parliament, we are supposed to follow the national values. And Article 9 is very straightforward in terms of upholding the national values. It's a mirror, it's a compass. Whenever we are implementing, we are interpreting the Constitution, whenever we are making laws. And if we depart from that, we are doing a misnomer. Madam Speaker, I also want to emphasize that it is very important that we listen. This proportional representation, yes, it has come. It means that in the majoritarian, anyone who gets past 50% plus 1, that person has councillors all over the country. That is not how it's supposed to be. We are a democracy. What it's supposed to be is that we need to localize the vote, even using the presidential. If the president gets something good at a district level, let it be replicated in the proportional representation of the councillors. Not a situation where a national vote of the 50% plus 1 past threshold, then it makes that this person, we are courting a one-party state. And that we have to go away from.
Order. Your time is up, Honorable Member. From my recollection, the Honorable Member for Chilubi did actively participate in Bill number 7. I don't know where he was. He never brought out that issue. So, maybe you have to call for another constitutional amendment. Let's make progress. The Honorable Member for Nkana. And please, as we debate, let's not repeat, because what I've seen, we need to move. Bring out new areas. Let's not talk about presidential candidate. Same things. Honorable Member for Nkana, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker, I come in peace. I come with nothing but just the interest of the country. Amen. Madam Speaker, for the first time, there seems to be magnanimity in us agreeing that we ought to do what is right for the country. The report of your committee, Madam Speaker, 13 members who are all aligned to our friends in the UPND have made brilliant submissions. I want to stress this point. The chairperson who moved this report, the committee has highlighted very brilliant observations. They have not left anything that were submitted by stakeholders. And the observations are not very far from the observations that are being made by our friends who have already debated and what I also want to speak to. Madam Speaker, I want to make this point that election disputes have caused serious conflicts in many nations. In the recent past, Mozambique, Tanzania saw serious conflicts because of disputes, which is why I want to stress that the assignment before us is not a partisan assignment. We have to objectively look at this matter for the sake of our nation. Madam Speaker, I always ask when we are amending the law, what lacuna are we trying to address? What mischief are we trying to cure? Was it necessary for the ECZ to amend the Electoral Process Act of 2016? Yes, Madam Speaker. It was necessary for the ECZ to amend the 2016 Act because of what Bill 7 has brought in, namely the proportionate representation, which were not provided for in the 2016 law.
The only problem we have now, Madam Speaker, is the extra issues that have now come with this proposed amendment. Madam Speaker, for a very long time, stakeholders have proposed that we needed to come up with a new law called the Political Parties Act. This is extremely important for the future of this country because it is only the Political Parties Act that is going to now guide properly political parties. The Registrar of Societies Act leaves a lot of gaps, particularly the very contentious issue we are discussing today, which has come as a proposal under this bill. The requirement for an adoption certificate for all candidates. Madam Speaker, you wish to know that on Monday, presidential candidates will start activities or nomination activities. The Electoral Commission of Zambia have made a sweeping statement suggesting that all the aspiring candidates, they've put the word all aspiring candidates must come with adoption certificates. The Constitution does give way for citizens who want to participate as independents. Why would you want to ask an independent candidate to come with a certificate? Who is going to adopt him? Madam Speaker, an adoption certificate at the expense of sounding monotonous is an administrative issue of a political party. When you now go as far as suggesting these adoption certificates must be signed by a Secretary General and a President who is recognized by the Societies Act, which act does not recognize a Secretary General? You have lost yourselves. The movers of this motion are fishing. They are on a fishing expedition because, Madam Speaker, the Societies Act, the Registrar of Societies Act, does not provide a requirement for political parties to indicate, Secretary General. You can peruse through the entire act. You will never find the wording Secretary General. There is only provided for office bearers. If we want for administrative conveniences, political party adopted candidates to be duly recognized, you could have proposed perhaps a document that is duly signed by office bearers that are recognized. Because when you misplace words like Secretary General and President, you are going against what is at the Registrar of Societies Act. Secondly, Madam Speaker, the adoption certificate requirement introduces a new requirement to the qualification of a candidate. The Constitution of Zambia clearly prescribes what I must possess if I'm to qualify for any election at any level. When you introduce a certificate, an adoption certificate, as a must, you are introducing something that goes against the Constitution. My friend spoke about the supremacy of the Constitution. You cannot create a law that circumvents the Constitution because the supremacy of the Constitution cannot be, altered. Madam Speaker, there are other proposals being made. As an example, Madam Speaker, the campaign period, at the expense of sounding monotonous. Why, in the past, Madam Speaker, the issue of the election date and the campaign used to be so contentious that ruling parties will prescribe a date at a period when it will not be easy for other political parties who have no state or access to state resources to access certain areas. That is why it was thought, let us prescribe a date and a defined campaign period so that we remove all these ula-balus about what date we should have election and the campaign period. What the Electoral Commission of Zambia is trying to do now is to take us back to that state of ambiguity, that state of uncertainty in regards to the campaign period. The period of campaign must not be left at the mercy of an institution. It is already part of an existing law, and there was no need
anywhere whatsoever to alter this established position of the law as it stands. Madam Speaker, we agreed that we are going to adopt the majoritarian system for electing our presidents. That is against the first past the post which we used to run with in the past. The new terminology they've brought in, Madam Speaker, defining a candidate, relates to situations where you are using the first past the post. If we don't cure this, or we don't address this issue, it has a potential of causing serious commotion in the election. I am proposing that, colleagues, we have a duty to amend these proposals so that we have a law that guarantees us peace and security after the elections. The turmoils we are seeing in other countries as a result of election disputes are not far from us, and we should never allow any subsidiary law, especially to sit on the rights of citizens and also to contravene the Constitution. I came in peace and make my submission. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Luena.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. We are grateful for the opportunity as the voice of Luena to debate this Amendment Act, the Electoral Processes Amendment Act. Madam Speaker, the good thing is that we now have a government that's a listening government, and therefore there's no need for fear-mongering. This government has been very accommodative. In fact, even when a very, very important amendment under Bill 7, or in the start form of Bill 7, was brought to this House, the government listened after feedback from stakeholders and members of Parliament, and amendments were duly effected. And today, we are sitting with a constitution that we are all proud of. Madam Speaker, we are also alive to the fact that those that opposed Bill 10, those that opposed Bill 7, those that opposed Bill 7, who were against bringing more women to this House, who were against bringing youths to this House, who were against bringing people living with disabilities to this House, Madam Speaker, will oppose any suggestion of how those people should be brought into this House. Because after all, they did not want them to come. And I'm sure the nation took note. It's no wonder, Madam Speaker, some of them have already resigned to the fact that the nation is aware if they went back to them and asked them to give them a vote to come back to this House, it is attempting to catch air with your bare hands. And so they have raised their hands and said, please forget about me. Madam Speaker, we therefore do understand. Madam Speaker, as the people of Luena, we are happy that this amendment is making it very clear that an adoption certificate must be signed by the Secretary General and the President of the sponsoring party. Why, Madam Speaker? Because this is actually protecting democracy. Madam Speaker, if we don't learn from what's happening around us, we are bound to run into the same pit. Not very far from our country, Madam Speaker, in one neighboring country, opposition political parties nearly went into extinction because of this lack of clarity, where one individual wrote a letter to send members to Parliament. Another individual wrote a letter to withdraw them. Madam Speaker, complete confusion. How can such a situation promote democracy, Madam Speaker? This clarity, therefore, ensures that people that come to Parliament through the proportional representation system, Madam Speaker, do so under a secure tenure because they would have come in through the approved authorization by the sponsoring party. More so, Madam Speaker, that we are now introducing the right to send under the PR system, as well as the right to recall. That cannot be left to the whims of individuals, especially in our situation, Madam Speaker, where even now we have political parties that have 7 presidents. Some of them, they are president of this political party. They are going to contest elections when another political party has a president. It's complete confusion. The only way to ensure that the people's vote out there, once cast is protected, is through this provision, Madam Speaker. Another issue that we are very happy with as the people of Luena is the distribution of the PR seats based on the presidential vote. Madam Speaker, I've heard suggestions that this should have been done at a district level. Madam Speaker, that would be contrary to the spirit of why we brought 50+1 as a requirement to win the presidential election. The converse of that is we didn't want a minority president, where a president can run the country with 21% of votes. And therefore, once we introduce 50+1 and now the proportional representation system, it means this president must have a presence, Madam Speaker, in every corner of this country, which means in every council. And therefore, sharing the votes or the PR seats on the basis of the presidential vote, even in districts where this president might not have got a vote, is the best way to ensure that the voice of this president is also represented. After all, they enjoy over 50% of support in the country. So, Madam Speaker, we are in support of the amendments. In doing so, Madam Speaker, we would like to point out that certainly there are a few items that we would like to bring to the attention of the sponsoring ministry to take note of. One of the definition of a candidate has already been dealt with, so we won't say anything about it. But, Madam Speaker, we are also taking note of what is proposed in Section 36B2 about the timing of when the proportional representation seats will be distributed. It says that they will be distributed within 7 days after the swearing in of the president-elect. Madam Speaker, we think that the swearing in is a little bit too late. Maybe this should be done within 7 days after the declaration of the winner of the presidential election. Madam Speaker, we also take note of Section 38H5, which is talking about how, when a vacancy occurs in a member of parliament seat who came in through a proportional representation system, that the replacement, Madam Speaker, shall be done by picking the next available candidate on the party list. Madam Speaker, I'm reminded that this matter was also discussed in relation to members of parliament who occupy, who represent constituencies, that the replacement could have been done without an election, and this House said no. And that one of the risks that people identified was that if, Madam Speaker, I'm a PR MP, and the next available candidate is my good friend for Kanyama, who knows that as long as I'm here, he has no chance. But once I disappear, he is automatically entitled to come and occupy the seat. That introduces all sorts of anxieties, both in the candidate who knows that they would be next and the one who knows who would follow them or who would replace them if they were to disappear. So maybe that power and right should still be left to the party, that when a vacancy occurs, the party on the list that had been submitted should decide who goes to occupy the seat. Madam Speaker, we think that in the main, this is a very progressive amendments. And because this is a new system we have introduced, there will be need for some house cleaning in the process to ensure that we give ourselves an act that gives us a smooth process of implementing our new and improved electoral system, which includes the proportional representation. Madam Speaker, with these few words, we wish to confirm that we support the amendments with those proposed amendments as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was hoping that honorable members, like honorable member for Chilubi, who is walking outside now, would sit in and also listen to the other side. Because this debate is about making your point and also listening to the other person's point, and then you make a decision. But if you go out with your own decision alone, how will you be able to accommodate the other views?
They don't answer you.
How can you make amendments before the debate is completed? Listen to the other people also, then you'll be able to see whether or not you need that amendment. The Honorable Member for Zambezi East.
Madam Speaker, I sincerely thank you for the opportunity to debate the report of your select committee appointed to scrutinize the National Assembly Bill number 44 of 2026, which seeks to amend the Electoral Process Act number 35 of 2016. And these will give effect to the constitutional provisions as recently amended by this very House. We are all agreed that we amended the Constitution of Zambia, Cap 1 of the laws of Zambia, in order to refine our statutes, to provide for current situation that is applicable to today's life and in conformity with the practice in other civilized jurisdictions, so that we can provide for our women to be represented in the House of the people. We can provide for the disabled people to be represented in the House of the people, alike to provide for the youths to also be represented in the House of the people. And this is the beauty of this bill we are debating today. It actually gives effect to that very important decision we made to amend the grand norm of this country, which is the Constitution of Zambia, Cap 1 of the laws of Zambia. And, Madam Speaker, the debate is actually in the objects of the bill. The objects are essentially what I have alluded to, which will be addressed by the clauses that appear in this bill. And we should be debating in a way that probably refines the clauses that have been provided in this bill. We also had a window to present to the Select Committee. And I'm glad, Madam Speaker, that your Select Committee reports that stakeholders were in agreement with the bill in principle, except for a few concerns which will be addressed in due course as we traverse through the bill. Madam Speaker, I'll comment on some of the clauses and what they intend to achieve. Clause 8, which amends Section 30 in the Principal Act, is actually amending issues to do with a candidate who is sponsored by a political party. This is a subject, can only be a subject of debate if you don't belong to a political party. But if there is an organized political party, or if you belong to an organized political party, such as the one I belong to, you will have no issues with these amendments. Because the UPND is well organized, and as a candidate myself, all will fall in and I'll be playing within the law. So why do I have to have concerns with this if it's applicable to a political party which is organized? Now, Madam Speaker, if you have observed, those crying out loud are those coming from political parties that are in disarray, which people must not trust. Because, yes, as we go into elections, people must see clearly which political party and which leadership is leading that political party before they make a decision. So if you want to go independent also, yes, then you can go independent, and this law provides for independent candidates. But for us here, on your right-hand side, Madam Speaker, coming from a very organized political party, we have no problems with this amendment in Clause 8, which amends Section 30 of the Principal Act. Madam Speaker, I like Clause 9, which amends Section 31, speaks to MPs now, which is just like us. Of course, the previous one I debated is talking about presidential candidates. But the next one is talking about members of parliament. If you feel that your political party is not organized, why not stand as an independent? The people will still believe in you. So if you feel that you have an organized institution which will sponsor you, check also their validity in terms of how they are registered. Do they have an SG? Do they have a president? If they don't, I would suggest and recommend that you come maybe as an individual. Or you may join us. So probably we can scrutinize. Anyway, we closed the application for adoption certificate. We are already in the process of adopting candidates under the UPND. So you might be too late, but it's not never too late. You can find a way of maybe sneaking in. Otherwise, when you look at the situation, most of these opposition political parties, Madam Speaker, are in disarray. But those who are organized can still manage with this law coming in. Madam Speaker, I also wish to speak to the issue of qualification of a political party to participate in the proportional representation system. We voted to amend the Constitution so that we can have a proportional representation in Parliament for the reasons that I mentioned in my discourse earlier. Now, for you to qualify, there must be rules. It should not just be a name. No, PF, maybe it's just on paper, it doesn't even exist. And when we go to the elections, people will show which political party is favored. And after the vote, we will know then how much representation can actually exist in the House. So you choose a political party that will have more numbers here. That is when you can actually have more numbers on the proportional representation. These are just rules being put across so that we can have a structured way of having members that are coming under the proportional representation to come to the House. However, Madam Speaker, I just want to comment on the days given. The days given, I agree with the committee on their recommendations to increase the period from 7 days to 14 days in terms of submission of party lists. Indeed, the party lists will be submitted, but again, I would like to reiterate what the Honorable Member for Luena said. I think this should be a preserve of the party. In case of anything that happens to someone who came in through proportional representation, let's go back to the party to nominate the person coming here. In any case, the decision is being made by the party. The democracy is actually at the party level. Madam Speaker, with these few words, I thought I could contribute in a positive way, and I support the bill entirely. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. There are still 2 members who would want to speak on the debate, but I think we have exhausted. What I've seen is that we've been repeating ourselves, talking about the same subject. Honorable Member for Bangwelu, I think I gave enough members to debate against the motion. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 members. No, we need to make progress. We have a lot of work. Because now I want to allow the honorable ministers to respond. So let's make progress. We need to move. The honorable, we'll start with the Honorable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You heard me when I was rising on a point of order, yet you had already ruled that you didn't accept points of order when the member, Honorable Kampyongo, was stating statistics, which was echoed also by the Member of Parliament for Chilobi and a member of Olunde, and also the Honorable Member of Nkana. about proportional representation, just to put something scientifically. And I want to declare that I've been a lecturer of behavioral sciences in statistics for 30 years. So I know what I'm talking about. So this is now science. All right? When you say that you want to, can you go to the districts in order to see which presidential candidate won there? That's against cumulative science. All right? That is against cumulative. In fact, I used to teach this subject in the first year, but all the way to the fourth year for 30 years. So unless you do not understand science, then you can also say what you want to say today. And I could say that, and you can see that the behavior of such thinking is just politics. It's just politics. And nothing embedded in science itself. Yes. No, what I'm saying, listen, it doesn't matter. I'm not talking about a report. I'm talking about science. Okay?
Sorry, Honorable Member for Shwangandu, the Honorable Minister is responding to the issues that were raised.
He mentioned me in the first place.
Yes. May the Honorable Minister continue.
So, even if your report, if you think the report says so, I'm now talking about science. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All right? The Honorable Forunte was talking, do we have lawyers here? Do you have lawyers? The lawyers are there. But do you have scientists, especially statistical scientists? I'm here. And I don't think that you can dispute me having taught for 30 years this same. And many of them, Madam Speaker, many of these clerks around were my students. And I don't think that I was wrong. No. So I want us now to contextualize this issue. Like the member for Luena said, 50% plus 1. And then you want to go at, can we localize? No, you cannot do that. My friend from Ghana, I think you learned a little bit of some statistics. It cannot happen that way. So you need a presidential vote in order to cascade to proportional representation. All right? Maybe because you missed out when we were debating the Bill 7 issue. That is what we're actually talking about. So this bill is talking to that. So I'm sure because many of the people at the Electoral Commission of Zambia, some of them were my students who did my statistics, and I think they were thinking that way. So, Madam Speaker, let us speak about things that help society. And let me turn again to something else. You are only 4 people here, maybe 6 here, who have said, if we don't do this, there will be chaos in this country. Never say that. Chaos could have happened over an election in this country in 2015, 2016, and 2021. Now listen to me, let me just tell you. Just look, you look at the behavior of Zambians. Okay? I am trained to predict human behavior. So even when you sit here, I actually run in all your brains here. I swim in all your brains here. So, Madam Speaker, there's no way that you can come here on the floor of this House forgetting about history. I was also a student of history because history helps me to what happened, to what is now, and to what. Today, Madam Speaker, because of the tranquility which is in this country, you cannot even feel that there's an election in 2 months. You cannot feel that. And one time I asked somebody, when the PF lost, my colleague said, we didn't see it coming. I said, because you had shut everybody. You were shutting the press, you were shutting what? People were boiling inside. They were seeing pangas on the roads. They were seeing all this. They said, we shall see. Today you cannot see any panga in the street. You cannot see. Just listen. Guns were oozing, bloodshed was there. For the past 5 years, we have not seen any blood oozing on anybody. You have not seen, listen. Then you leave out of this world.
Please, let's proceed. We don't have much time. Honorable Minister, please continue.
Yes.
Can we allow the Minister to debate?
Yes. So, unless you want to hide yourself from your brain, not to see what others are seeing, it is very important.
Order, Honorable Member for Nkana, you were given an opportunity. Order, you were given an opportunity to debate, and while you were debating, nobody was interjecting on the floor.
Especially me, I was listening to him because yesterday he had pronounced that he is not going to contest, so he bade farewell to this house. So, let me just say this. The tranquility that we have had in this country will never be lost. This election is not about this bill. This election is about what government has done. It ends there. These are just the rules and the orders that because in society, if every one of us were good enough, they were not going to be robots. Yeah. Because you have to be stopped as a human being, because potentially you are a cruel person who transgresses the law. This is why they are robots. Red, stop. Green, pass. These are the rules. But this election is going to be won not because of this bill. Not even the Constitution. The Constitution drove us to what the majority of the people wanted. It's about what this government has done. Whether you like it or not, yes, you can amend this bill here and there. Ultimately, the Zambians have decided this is how we want it to be ruled. Yeah. No violence, increase CDF, get free education, 2.5 million children in school today. What does that mean? Where were you going to take those kids who are 2.5 million? Some of them are your own children, some of you. Where are you going to get them? You are creating a nursery of vagabonds in the next 20 years. This is what this election is all about. And nothing else. We can tell ourselves about this bill, the Electoral Commission bill, whatever. No. Out there, people are already decided. How else are we going to? And I can tell you, we are employing 2,000 teachers now. In September, 3,500. In January next year, 40,000 teachers. What else would you want? And now, just yesterday, Madam Speaker, let me just tell you, because of the way we have run our education system, Rwanda wants our teachers. Mozambique wants our teachers. Lesotho wants our teachers. These seashells, we have been giving them 100 teachers every year. But Rwanda, because of the way they are advanced, they will collect all our teachers that side. But I'm aware what we're going to do ourselves, because we may have a deficit of teachers. We are increasing now enrollments in education. What else would you want? Is it about this bill? Yeah. It's about work. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. There was also an indication by the Honorable Minister of Agriculture. The Honorable Minister of Agriculture, before I come to the other ministers.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just have 4 points, Madam Speaker. The honorable member here gave us a scientific approach. Yeah. Mine, Madam Speaker, is practical from the streets. Yeah. Yeah. Madam Speaker, I was the member of the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy. Yeah. And when we lost, confusion ensued, like we are seeing confusion in a certain party. Yeah.
When we went for elections, Madam Speaker, we had adoption certificates from the right and adoption certificates from the left, adoption certificates from the front and from the rear. This cures that. These amendments, they are curing that. Honorable Member for Nkana, we need an adoption certificate and we need a letter to confirm that Ruben Mtolo is a member standing on UPND and certified, so that the many factions we are seeing in the PF do not bring confusion and chaos in this country. If we don't cure that, we will have documents from Honorable Chavinga, documents from Honorable X, documents from Honorable Y, documents from Honorable P, and confuse the Electoral Commission. That should not be allowed. We from the streets don't want that. So you, if you are independent presidential candidate, write for yourself and give yourself an adoption certificate and give to ECZ. What are you afraid of? Clarity is good. Number two, yes, also Secretary General, you are one in everything. Number two, Madam Speaker, the political dispensation. Now this is to Honorable Kafaya and Honorable Fube. Yes, sit first, Honorable Kafaya. How can you sit here and suggest that the PR proportional representation should be determined by local governance? How? In this country, the one who becomes the president is the one who leads as president is the one who forms the government, period. How can you today want to delegate that to local authority? Where? In Zambia, council chairman, for heaven's sake, we are talking of a president. So what the figure the president will get is what will determine how many women from his party will go there, how many youths from his party will go there, and how many from the disabled will go there. From his party. How can we, madam? And you were asking questions if there are lawyers here. Do you need to be a lawyer to think like that? And you called yourself a global management chartered accountant. I was hearing, I wasn't here, I was in the radio, you said so. No, it's not personal. No. I'm answering to your debate. You I love, so why are you upset? We are good friends. We are very good friends. So don't mislead the public that we are enemies. After this, you'll be patting me on the back. We should not allow chaos. We want the regulation from the president to man this country. Madam Speaker, I now go to my friend Fube, who is not here, Honorable Fube. Wherever you are, Honorable Fube, you are listening. How can you say these amendments are taking away powers from the Constitution and giving to the Electoral Commission, and this is wrong because it is going to ferment anarchy? I mean, I was listening to that debate, Madam Speaker, and I was saying, what is happening today with the honorable members? Actually, the ECZ is a regulatory board, and it has all authority to guide us on how to do things properly. And that is what it is doing. Stick to what? Farming. I am a good Minister of Agriculture because we have put a good president up there. Without his guidance, we would not be where we are. So thank you that you appreciate that, as the Minister said, even in farming we have flourished, in education we are flourishing, in tourism we are flourishing, in infrastructure we are flourishing, in water we are flourishing, in energy we are flourishing. Because of this president, and we want to elect him properly, not by going to local councils, but by using the presidential vote. Honorable Kafaya, my dear friend, sit down. Yes.
Allow the honorable member to go out. Maybe he can take a breather.
Yes.
May the honorable minister...
Finally, as I sit down, Madam Speaker, the proportional representation, 20 women, 15 youths and 5 disabled are going to come to this parliament to enhance the numbers of this parliament to about 280 members of parliament, and they will be there. Because right now, if you count, we are failing to have ladies coming here. Because members like you, Honorable Fonkana, you are so vicious, the women pull away. Yes, well, yes, you are very able campaigner.
May the Honorable Member Fonkana restrain himself in his last days.
You, Honorable Member Fonkana, you. Binwell, Honorable Binwell Mpundu. Aka Kasongo. You are fighting.
May the Honorable Minister order.
No youth.
Order. May the Honorable Minister order. May the Honorable Minister speak through the presiding officer.
Madam Speaker, look at how vicious these MPs are. How can a youth fight a member like this member of President of Chavaiche, Honorable Binwa Mpundu? They have no chance. We should thank our president and this UPND government for bringing 15 youths outside the normal election, but that they should come. Chavaiche, in fact, should be happy because for once, maybe if he gets a good vote as president, he will have someone representing him here. So the parties are now going to be more represented in here because even if you lose, but you get a good vote, you will have representation here. How else do you want democracy to prevail? Madam Speaker, I would go on and on, but I think I've delivered my point. I'm very grateful.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister for Information and Media.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. And at the outset, Madam Speaker, allow me, as we are coming to the end of this particular first term of President HH, to place my appreciation on the floor of this House that President Hakainde Hichilema has led us well as a team. Because, Madam Speaker, this is a president, when he was leader of a party in the opposition, defeated a ruling party here on the floor of this House on a constitutional question, because he was standing on the right side of the argument with the rest of the citizenry of this country. Yeah. Number two, Madam Speaker, this is the first president to attain victory over 2 national issues relating to constitutional amendment by the passage of Bill number 7. This record, Madam Speaker, will not be easy to challenge. You are in the opposition, you defeat a ruling party over a national question to do with the Constitution. You are in the ruling party, you defeat the opposition. It means he is consistent and in line with the aspirations of the people of this country. That is the reason why, with this kind of demonstrable good judgment, the people of Zambia need to give him another opportunity to save this country up to 2031. Madam Speaker, let me therefore proceed to indicate that as we debate this amendment bill, yesterday the High Court for Zambia dismissed a case by Chapter 1 Foundation and another who sought to remove the jurisdiction of this House from proceeding in the manner that we are now today doing, to consider the bills that have been brought before this House, including the Electoral Processes Amendment Bill that we are now speaking to. We commend the courts of law for upholding justice in this country, and that matter, which had raised some anxiety with some people, has now been put to rest, that this House is on terra firma, and that this House is acting in accordance with the law. Madam Speaker, what we are talking about is not a political matter, it's a juridical matter. Madam Speaker, let me talk also quickly to respond to a member. I think it's Honorable Kafwaya, who indicated here that this particular bill did not meet minimum consensus or consultations. That proposition, Madam Speaker, is hair raising. Because these are the same people, Madam Speaker, when they were called to discuss over constitutional amendment as early as November 2023, they decided to go and play to the gallery out there, in the public spaces, and refused to sit to talk about constitutional amendment. I'm surprised, Madam Speaker, how people who refused to participate and rejected Bill 7 are now the ones taking the front seat to voluptuously partake of the fruits of a bill they had rejected. Madam Speaker, when you stand for something, live for it. So we can't have people who specialize in debate over things they did not agree with in the first place. We must be principled. Madam Speaker, the other thing I wanted to ventilate upon, Madam Speaker, is that listening from the submissions from members on your left, it is very clear that we are just enjoying their freedom of speech. Because the Vice President read out the amendments that are going to be effectuated today. And constitutional amendment, later on, amendment of a bill, Madam Speaker, is and does not end in the committee. It ends here. This is still part of the consultative process. So when people are debating about issues that the executive has already indicated that they will be attended to, it is shocking, Madam Speaker. But anyway, they come with premeditated thoughts about what they want to come and say, notwithstanding what is available as a matter of reality. I also want to respond to Honorable Fube, Madam Speaker, who made a statement which, again, I understand him, the premise he was coming from, because he made a statement to the effect that the Electoral Commission, through the Electoral Processes Amendment Bill, are seeking to usurp the powers of the Constitution. Madam Speaker, I want to draw his attention to Article 229, and particularly 2H, which creates the Electoral Commission and clothes it with power to manage and administer the conduct of elections. And therein, at H specifically, to manage elections as prescribed. When the ECZ come up with a requirement of an adoption certificate, Madam Speaker, how else can you manage elections if you don't put in place administrative measures? He ought to understand that the Constitution generally creates principles which govern the country, but to give breath to those wide principles, then that is why there is creation of these institutions through acts of parliament that are subservient to the Constitution, but running in tandem with the Constitution, so that then the Constitution can breathe as a living document that is justiciable. He may not understand. I understand. No, he's a lawyer. He's a second-year student. He's a lawyer by definition. So I will not take away that he's a lawyer. He's a lawyer, second-year student. So I thought I bring to his attention, Madam Speaker, that piece of understanding. Madam Speaker, let me also indicate quickly here the issue of PRP calculation, that it is normal that it should be done at presidential level, because only the president has a national mandate to govern the country, including in those areas, those local authorities where he may not have gotten a lot of votes. He is the one with a national mandate through 50% plus 1 mandate, so it means you govern the entire country. Secondly, it is also important to calculate from the president in order, Madam Speaker, to unite the nation and also promote national development, so that you can have your own people in those local authorities where you may not have representation. As we have seen through CDF, Madam Speaker, some of the constituencies you find that there is sabotage. As we saw the president last week or 2 weeks ago, sent desks to Ncherenge as though there is no CDF. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs. Oh, you withdraw.
I rest my...
Oh, he has rested his case. So we go then to Her Honor, the Vice President, winding up debate.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I just want to thank you for giving time to so many members that have contributed on this matter. I believe that it shows the importance of this bill. I take note of the so many members, Honorable Member from Pika for Chilubi, Shuangandu, Chienge, Lunte, Nkana, Zambezi East, Luena, and Ministers of Education, Information, Agriculture. I think this is very, very important. And because of the debate that we have had, I think the points have been made, and we have all expressed our views. And I will not take too long, Madam, just to speak to some, I think, some debate that may have gone a little off what we are debating here, or maybe give a little understanding to it. I want to say, this was spoken to by several members on the supremacy of the Constitution. That is not in question, but it is the same supreme law of the land, which has given the mandate of running elections to the Electoral Commission. So the Electoral Commission, Madam Speaker, has a duty to regulate. The prescription of the law, it means that the supreme law cannot tackle every detail of what it provides for. This is what the lawyer, for example, Honorable Member for Chilubi did refer to, the supremacy, and others referred to that. It means that the supreme law sets the principles. The law that we are dealing with deals with detail, and we have regulation also below that. So we have to understand that the laws have the supreme, the next. You even end up with a statutory instrument. You can't expect that which is in the supreme law to remain like that, and then the subsequent laws also start stating the same things. That's not what it is. So, colleagues, that is important. The other thing I want to speak to, Honorable Speaker, Madam Speaker, is that people have said this Electoral Commission is applying a law which has not been enacted. Or what they are doing, there is no provision of law. I think, honorable members, let us not mislead the public. What we are doing is not repealing the 2016 Act. It is still operational. And whatever the Electoral Commission is doing now is basing it on the Act number 35 of 2016. It is still operational. This is an amendment. Another misleading thing that I see here, people have debated on the issue of the independent candidates. So clearly stated, it really makes me sad, because we are coming to the end of this, 13th National Assembly, and you believe that when people are debating, they have actually read. A lot of times, Madam Speaker, allow me on the issue of the adoption certificate. I'll go to amendment to section 30. The amendment here is very clear. In section 30 of the Principal Act is amended. I'm reading now from the actual law, madam. That in subsection 1, by the insertion of 1B, an adoption certificate in the case of a candidate sponsored by a political party. Very clear. Is that not clear? I'll add, just to add clarity, if we go to the amendment to section 31, amendment to section 31A2 says a nomination paper and an affidavit referred to in subsection 1 shall be accompanied by an adoption certificate, except that this requirement shall not apply to an independent candidate. I am reading. This is what we are doing now. The rest, up to now, this is what I want to clarify, madam. Up to now, the law which is being applied is the Act number 35. This is not yet in application. And yet, we are debating this amendment, alleging that the amendment is compelling independent candidates to also take an adoption certificate. Why are we misleading the people? I am saying this, madam, we are head beyond this house. So let us not bring that misunderstanding. The law is clear. Amendment to 30, amendment to section 31 is very clear. And after this will apply. It is not yet in application. And indeed, what I will say is we do understand the concerns on the adoption certificate. We understand on the definition of candidate, and we will look at that. We have, not much has been spoken, but in the report, madam, there is the issue of campaign period. That if you actually calculate using the issue as it is 92 days, not exactly 90 days. So this is an issue which is we have to look at. And if we need to do that, then the Constitution, I should say, today provides that Parliament should dissolve 90 days before the general election. So on the definition of party list, we have listened. The distribution of seats, I think we have listened, and the rationale has been stated. It is in accordance to the Constitution, which states that this will be decided on the votes obtained by the President. I think these are basically the things. They were just being repeated, madam, and we have heard, we have listened. Where there is need for amendment, we will bring according to the debate that we have had today. But I thought I should clarify these two important things that have come on now and again. Madam, I want to thank all of them, even those that chose to mislead, either deliberately or indeed from failure to read the law that they are debating, or even the report. I thank all of them. We are grateful. We are working together. This is the way. But at the end of the day, I'll still call upon all honorable members to support this so that we can ensure we bring into force the provisions of the Act number 13 that amended the current Constitution today. Thank you.
So I will take a few minutes of your lunchtime, honorable members. Bear with me so that we conclude this. I put the question. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary say no. No. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Let the bill be read a second time.
The Electoral Process Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 44 of 2026.
Committee stage to be taken when?
In due course, Madam.
Committee stage to be taken in due course. As the time is over 12:30 hours, I suspend business until 14:30 hours for a lunch break. Bon appetit.
That's on Parliamentary television. Business of the House has been suspended for a lunch break, and we do expect business of the House to resume at about 14:30. So just now we quickly look at business that has been considered on the floor of the House from the time business commenced at 10 hours.
Yes, indeed, Matimba Mkoa. So when business commenced, the House did consider one person. This is understanding order 80 and ordinary person. And it came from Mr. Christopher Kangombe, Finsa constituency member of Parliament. He did direct his consent to the Minister of Finance and National Planning. We wanted to find out whether the government is aware that following the amendment of the Banking and Financial Services Act, there are complaints from money lenders over the new rules regarding the registration and operation of money lending business, and if so, what measures the government is taking to address the concerns. And the minister did say that government is aware of the situation.
After consideration of that question, the House went on to consider the Electoral Process Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 44 of 2026, which came at second reading. This bill has been considered at second reading, and it has been committed to the committee of the whole House. And the committee stage of this bill is expected to be taken in due course.
Yes, indeed. So we still have more business to be considered, Matimba, and some of the bills to be considered include the Zambia Wildlife Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 49 of 2026, the Sports Council of Zambia Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 52 of 2026.
We also expect the House to consider later in the afternoon the Zambia Education Publishing House Foundation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 54 of 2026 at second reading, the Zambia Institute for Tourism and Hospitality Studies Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 55 of 2026 also coming at second reading.
The Zambia Revenue Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 to be considered second reading, as well as the Tourism and Hospitality Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 58 of 2026 to be considered at second reading as well.
Also coming up at second reading is the National Institute of Public Administration Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 60 of 2026, the National Prosecution Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 61 of 2026 at second reading.
The Land Perpetual Succession Bill, National Assembly Bill number 66 of 2026, and thereafter we do expect the House to resolve into committee to consider the following bills at a committee stage.
And the first bill to be considered at committee stage is the Closed Circuit Television Public Protection Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2025, the Pension Scheme Regulation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2026, the Public-Private Partnership Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2026.
Others includes the National Road Fund Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2026, the Standards Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 53 at a committee stage, as well as the Occupational Health and Safety Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 62 of 2026.
Other bills that are coming up for consideration at committee stage are the Patents and Companies Registration Agency Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 63 of 2026, the Zambia Development Agency Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2026.
We have two bills to be considered at report stage. These are the National Heritage Conservation Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 22 of 2026, as well as the National Museums Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 34 of 2026.
And so just now we equally go on a lunch break. Do join Mutali Felide, Smate and Tazapiri at 14:30 hours for live parliamentary proceedings. From all of us here, keep watching Parliament Television. Good afternoon.